Hey, good evening. My name is Brian Cabrera. I am the Vice President for the UTT SPE Student Chapter. And today we have our Soft Skills Professional Development Workshop. This is segment 1. Our featured speaker would be Tahirah Kerr from Point Lecious Nitrogen Limited. We also have with us Lorraine Charles, also at HR at Point Lecious Nitrogen Limited. So without further ado, I'd like to get into Tahirah's bio. So Tahirah is an HR generalist at Point Lecious Nitrogen Limited. Her core areas of focus includes recruitment, training and development, and performance management. Tahirah holds a BSc in psychology and a master's in human resource management with distinction. With over 10 years experience in human resource management within the energy sector, Tahirah brings a unique skill set of strengths to the table, including recruitment spanning across all levels of the organization. She is responsible for the various training programs at Point Lecious Nitrogen Limited and is actively involved in the recruitment for these programs. So I'd now like to direct your attention to the share screen. Welcome in Ms. Tahirah Kerr.
Thank you very much. So this afternoon, we're going to talk about building soft skills. So as Brian mentioned, my name is Tahirah Kerr and I'm an HR generalist at Point Lecious Nitrogen Limited. A little bit about Point Lecious Nitrogen. So we are located in Point Lecious. We produce about 2,040 metric tons of ammonia per day. Our company is a joint venture ownership between Coke Industry and CF Industries. Our president is Mr. Fitzroy Harewood. So during the workshop today, we're going to talk about what do you need to do? What do you need to know as a new applicant or budding applicant? What are the key soft skills that you need? What are the key soft skills that you need post-COVID? And the changing dynamic the changing employment dynamic post-COVID. And of course, questions. So what do you need to know? So as employers, past behavior is a predictor of future behavior. So as the employer, we consider what can you do? What traits, abilities, knowledge do you have that would match the job? What have you done in the past? So how have you handled your teamwork, your projects? How did you perform on your degree level? What do you want to do? So all of these factors, when combined, it is a predictor of future performance. And it's of course what the employer looks for. So you need to know this and keep this in mind, even from now. So things for you to know. What do you know about yourself? What traits, knowledge, what do you bring to the table? What do you need to know about the job? What abilities and traits do you have? And of course, what traits is required for the job? Because the employer would be evaluating those factors. So this model captures screening or captures how the employer evaluates you before bringing you into the company and onboarding you as an employee or as a trainee within our organization. The key factor as it relates to this presentation is the middle funnel, which evaluates. It's a series of tests that we use to evaluate you. So be it a personality test, cognitive test, integrity tests, aptitude tests that will capture your knowledge and skills. We can do this via simulations, career assessment centers, situational judgment tests, and the most popular is structured interviews. So the interview and the way the questions are worded really is hinged to capture what are your key traits. Right? So as employee, it's useful to keep in mind that we hire for those traits, we look for those traits and we evaluate those traits. Yes, we do keep in mind that we can train you up. So coming into the organization, you would need additional training. So we always keep that in mind. So the key factors that we look for are those traits. This is a sample assessment. So as I would have mentioned, sometimes we do assessment centers, and this is a sample assessment. So for example, when evaluating the trait of or the skill of communication, we consider what the definition is, and then we observe you to see if you practice any of these factors. So for example, describe the various methods and channels of communication within the organization. Can you do that? Are you displaying that trait? Formulate well-formed sentences, verbalizing own views clearly. Communicate routine information in a well-structured and accurate manner, both verbally and in writing. Listen when approached by others and ask questions. Liaise with others to develop effective working relationships. So you'd see there's a breakdown for each factor, and we always evaluate this when we have a career assessment center, that where you come in as a team and we evaluate and see how you work with others. So soft skills. What are soft skills? Technical skills are no longer enough. So remember, I mentioned that for workers to compete in the highly competitive global work environment. Soft skills have become critical to the job, defined as one of the most valuable assets an employee possesses. LinkedIn, in their trend report, showed that 92% of hiring managers say that soft skill is the most important area evaluated by recruiters. And this is also true for us. Why are soft skills important? To address interpersonal relations, to communicate effectively, to develop professional credibility, to work in dynamic teams and grow your network, and of course, to facilitate personal growth and professional development. A sample of the critical skills. So I've pulled out, based on Indeed's career guide, some of the critical factors or critical traits that we evaluate. This is also similar for us at Point Leases Nitrogen Limited. When we conduct interviews, several of our interviews questions are tailored along these factors. All right, so there are communication skills, interpersonal skills, self-motivation and work ethic, time management, teamwork, creativity, and problem solving. So communication skills, Indeed defines communication skills as the abilities you use when giving and receiving different kinds of information. The medium of communication is based on the situation and the context. So there are opportunities to develop this skill while you're still in university. You must be clear and concise when communicating information. Be courteous and respectful to all persons, even when you're in a group, in teams. And in the interview, we'll ask you situational questions which would allow you to show if you have developed this skill. Confidence is important in all interaction, and of course, always asking for feedback. Feedback to ensure that you understand, and also feedback that could help in your own development, with your own development. Interpersonal skills. Interpersonal skills guide the way we interact with and communicate with others. This is very important in the work environment because there are very limited areas that you can work on your own. You need to develop interpersonal skills because you would need information from others. You would need to work with others. So opportunities to develop this skill: be assertive, be dependable and reliable. Very much say what you're going to do. If you say you're going to achieve XYZ or work on XYZ or complete an assignment by a particular date, then do that because it shows that you are reliable. It shows that people can depend on you. Demonstrate empathy. Try to understand things from the perspective of others. Practice active listening. Manage your own emotions, and come into the work environment. It calls for a lot of emotional intelligence. Knowing how to control those emotions is quite important. Self-motivation and work ethic. Self-motivation is defined as being driven by personal goals and a need to achieve those goals. Individuals who are self-motivated are capable of independent work rather than needing to be closely supervised. In the work environment, and especially now, it calls for a lot of being driven to do what you have to do and achieve your personal goals in spite of the challenges that you face. It calls for having a high work ethic, knowing that I'm going to do the job, get the job done to the best of my ability, and keeping a high quality, right? So be assertive, be dependable. Sorry. Practice active listening and really being driven and self-motivated, right? Pushing forward, ensuring that you have a high quality of work and a consistent quality of work is very important. Time management. Effective time management is defined as organizing one's workload, assigning priorities, and maintaining focus on productive endeavors. So opportunities to develop this skill. Make a daily a task list of things that you need to do. And this would even transcend into the work environment. Every day when you come in, you make a list of the priority items that you need to achieve. Things may be added on to the list, and then you reevaluate again what is important, right? So you learn to prioritize, focus without distractions, learn project management tools and techniques, which is used a lot in the work environment. Determine your productive time and capitalize on it. So understand, I am most productive in the morning. So you come in, you have your list, and you try to get as much tasks done in the morning and make sure that, of course, as I said, consistent quality work. Teamwork. Teamwork can be defined as cooperative or coordinating efforts on the part of a group or person acting together as a team with a common interest and a common goal. All organizations rely heavily on teamwork, employees all working together towards a common goal. So this, you can definitely practice this skill and develop this skill within the university. One of the common interview questions would be, tell me about the time you worked in a team. What did you achieve? Or tell me about the time you worked on a team. Tell me about the challenges you faced and how did you deal with it and what was the end result? So opportunities to develop this skill, learn to communicate, to achieve, for the goal to be achieved. Collaborate on class project where team goals are shared. Practice resolving difficult conversation. Stick to deadlines. If you say you're going to achieve something by a particular date, it's very important that you stick to that. And stick to your classroom deadlines, your classwork deadlines, etc. Participate as much as possible in clubs, teams, and any other extracurricular groups. Another important trait, creativity and problem solving. Creativity and problem solving is the ability to use knowledge to find innovative solutions to problems and formulate workable steps to achieve results. It calls for really being resourceful to achieve problems, and when you are faced with problems and challenges in the environment, you need to be resourceful to find ways to still achieve what you need to achieve. So this is very, very, very important. Even coming out of COVID-19, it again will be very important because as employees, we were all challenged by the pandemic, working from home. How do we work around that to still achieve our targets? So it's no different from us now, and it is an important skill for you to develop. So opportunities to develop this skill: define and understand the problem, practice brainstorming techniques, learn to analyze and synthesize data, practice how to manage and measure risks, develop your decision-making abilities. So here are some skills that you need post-COVID-19. So post-COVID-19, as you're entering and applying for jobs, these are very critical skills now. So COVID-19 pandemic required all organizations to develop a new set of skills and tools to safely manage the pandemic and achieve the organization's goal. As a new graduate, these are a few suggestions of skills which will be expected from you: resilience, managing change and adaptability, personal responsibility, cooperation, and collaboration. Resilience. So positive psychology defines resilience as the ability to bounce back when encountering challenges. It's the ability to be faced with a challenge and really withstand that, right? Opportunities to develop this skill: seek to understand setbacks. We all face setbacks at various stages in our lives. How do you cope with that? How do you rise above that? It's a skill that needs to be developed, and over time, it will be developed for you. So build a strong support system. Ensure you have work-life balance, and in your environment, maintain school life balance as well. Take care of your health and well-being. Stay focused on your goals. And remember, it's a journey, right? So in all journeys, there would be setbacks. There'll be things you didn't plan for, but you must rise above it and must push forward. This is especially important now. Managing change and adaptability. Managing change and adaptability refers to being able to manage self to quickly learn new skills due to changing circumstances. So during the pandemic, we all had to learn new skills and really adapt to the environment. So it's no different for you, I imagine, learning from home, because there's still virtual learning, virtual classes, sorry. And the environment and the work environment really calls. So if you can speak on this as well as when you apply for jobs, there will be numerous questions on how you manage change and how adaptable you are. Are you willing to change? Because the environment calls for a lot of change, and sometimes changes happen really quickly. How do you adapt to that? And are you willing to change? Learn to ask questions and be comfortable in the fact that you don't have all the answers. Learn from coworkers and seek advice. And I would have mentioned follow-up. When you follow up, ask questions, ask for feedback, you really learn, and it's an opportunity for learning for you. So it's important that you internalize that and grow from information shared from others. Be willing to embrace multiple changes. Seek the positive in situation. Don't feel like, woe is me. Don't focus on the negative, but always focus on the positive that's coming out. So all situations, there is some level of positive coming out. How is that situation helping you to develop? What can you learn? How would it help you grow? Personal responsibility. Personal responsibility is the ability to be accountable for yourself and for work that is assigned to you. In the COVID environment, this is further challenged because there's more reliance on independent work. And I imagine it's so for you now as a student, and it's more so in the work environment because there's less supervision and more working at home or working in smaller groups than previously, which I'll talk about more further down. So the opportunities to develop this skill: define the work that needs to be done, break it down into small tasks, create an action plan with steps, including tasks, deadlines, and status. Communicate to the team your steps and status. continuously, right? Help each other. If you see a colleague struggling, offer to support them. Practice self-care and avoid situations and experiences which may put you at risk. Adhere to COVID-19 related PPE guidelines and amended work practices. Cooperation and collaboration. Cooperation is working together to achieve goals of the team. Collaboration is defined as co-workers working together on a project with a shared objective, outcome, or mission, right? Opportunity to develop the skill, develop teamwork skills, and you would have heard throughout this presentation, I spoke about teamwork and in several of the traits. So this again is very important. Learn the features of virtual technology platforms, as these will be used to, as a collaborative space in the foreseeable future. Understand the expectations, your responsibility, and timelines. And again, be willing to learn from others. So how has the employment dynamic changed post-COVID? COVID has been a catalyst for many changes in the environment. So regulation changes without safety and the need to continue to achieve, and yet we still have the need to achieve our business objectives. So it calls for significant emotional intelligence. This pandemic has been a source of stress for individuals, employees, students, parents, teachers, everybody. Feeling of exhaustion, negativity, and fear of uncertainty is being felt across the board for many individuals, right? Other factors such as training, learning, academic achievement, they are also been affected. Again, positive psychology states that individuals must utilize emotional intelligence to control emotions, own your feelings with the intention of guiding thoughts and actions, and use these feelings to motivate plans to move ahead. So again, I spoke about resilience and seeing the positive in situations and pushing forward, pushing to move ahead. So the hybrid or remote work environment, it calls for a more agile way of doing things. There's the immediate change to the work as the organization adapted to 2019 with an increased reliance on technology. Health and safety, of course, there are many changes to this. Even a greater attention is paid to employee health and wellness education and behavior-based safety. So it's being intentional, it's always paying attention to the regulations, following the protocol. If you feel sick, stay at home. It is that and so much more for us in the environment now. There are shifts, a shift pod system that now works and a lot of working from home. So where possible, we ask employees to work from home. For employees that need to do work on site, so for example, our technicians or engineers or operators, we have what you call shifts or pods. So they're really grouped, say a shift A and a shift B, so that shift A does not interact with shift B and the work is allowed to continue. So shift A would be on site 3 days and shift B would be on site 2 days, and it's rotated, but these two groups of people do not interact with each other. So worst case scenario, God forbid, if one of these employees would have been exposed to the virus, then the work would continue. We would contain that group of employees to not spread and cause further exposure to our employees, right? We have created work schedule rosters for a wider group of employees assigning specific locations. So we have also widen the locations of employees. So it's no longer everyone in different cubicles within a shared space, but it's now extended and we've created new offices, more offices for employees as well when they are on site to ensure, of course, a safe distance and safety of employees, which is most important, right? the pandemic has also shaped our working hours. So the organization has really moved from the schedule 7:30 to 4 to more of a deliverable focus work environment. So I would have mentioned having a task list. So really focus on what the deliverable, what is the end result that I need to achieve by when, and this is what shapes the way we work now. So again, as I would have mentioned, time management, this is important in the work environment. And when you are being considered to be hired, this would also be a factor. We'll ask a lot of questions around this. So it's important to continue to develop that skill. Virtual team meetings, even this meeting here now, which in the past would have been a face-to-face presentation in a classroom. So expected virtual meetings to continue during this pandemic and following the pandemic. Training and development has really changed, and as students, you would feel that the most. There are a lot of virtual classrooms, and even for us in the work environment, where training and development plays a big part of the way we do things. So we're moving away from classroom training to more virtual delivery, whether live or webinar on demand. Right? Employee engagement activities would have also changed significantly. So every year we would have like family days, end of year company parties, cookouts, sports club related activities. These would have all now changed to virtual events. So once you enter the work environment, be prepared for these changes. Okay. So that brings me to the end of my presentation. If you have any questions.
I have a question, Ms. Kerr. So regarding the first slide about what have you done as the graduate, what do you think, as an example, would be something that would stand out in these times after COVID, as an extracurricular or so forth?
This slide you're referring to, right?
Yes. So what have they done?
Right. From the perspective of the employee, what have they done? Extracurricular activities, yes. Really opportunities where we could test or ask questions around those skills. So you want to work more on doing teamwork, making sure your assignments are, of course, high quality and consistent. So we also review that. And we ask a lot of behavioral questions or competency-based questions so that new candidates can give us answers based on their experience. So if you do a lot of volunteer work or you work in groups, you would be you better equip yourself, as of course, and I take it for granted your knowledge and skills. So you must, of course, pass your courses, you know. But these are all the important elements for us when we consider hiring a new trainee or employee.
Okay, thank you.
I just like to, please, that oftentimes we hear questions from trainees or new hires, or potential hires, I should say, when we do career fairs and workshops. You know, how do I achieve this experience? How do I, this job requires a year's experience. This job requires a degree plus this entry-level qualification in terms of training and experience. Mm-hmm. And experience is oftentimes, as Tahirah has said, what we call transferable skills. So we're looking for those times when you had difficult virtual project teams. I could just imagine what project team work is like, because I remember my days of project teams when we were face-to-face and you had to run down some people across the quadrangle to find them for their sections of the projects, right? So, you know, how do you overcome those challenges in the virtual environment? How do you contribute as a team member in another setting? So Tahirah mentioned volunteerism, sports clubs, other groups. You might have some personal interest. You might be in a photography club or something else, but it gives you an opportunity to comment on the skill set that you have. And for us to look, and when we're looking at this model that we've shared here, what are the underlying personality traits that you brought to the table? What are some of the examples of how you've used those traits? And what do you really want to do? Wanting to do is also a very important part of the story. You know, there are people who, I'm sure you've had the experience somewhere, sometime, you know, somebody who's a really good tailor, they can make anything, but you have to go and sit down and watch them cut the cloth and wait for it to be stitched, because that motivation to do it is the part that's missing, right? So you have the three parts come together in the story, and that's what we're looking for as an employer, to understand you, the candidate. And so when you come to us, these are things that you have to keep in mind, because we're going to ask you about situations. We're going to ask you what your actions are and what are the behaviors. And in those behaviors, we'll be looking for the soft skills that we need to have good employees on site.
Okay, all right.
Hi, afternoon. I have a question about, in terms of resume and writing resumes and stuff like that. They talk about cover letters, and sometimes they say, you know, your cover letter shouldn't be too long or it shouldn't be too short, but like, what information should your cover letter contain?
Okay, so your cover letter should really answer the question of why am I best for this job? It's an opportunity to write, so you state, you introduce yourself, you talk about your skills and your abilities, and really try to match yourself against the job that you're applying for. And you show why. So it is usually one page. I've not seen many that's longer than one page. But yeah, these are the key factors within the cover letter, because it's an opportunity for you to show yourself. So the resume, it's a little bit section with key points that you should include, but the cover letter gives you an opportunity to sell yourself, introducing yourself, talk about your skills and abilities, and why are you the best suited for this job.
Okay, thank you. And one more question about like, when you graduate from university, right? Sometimes you may not have any kind of job experience. So you may just have the degree flat. So do you recommend going to do other courses and stuff like that? Or is it, well, what should I ask, is it impossible to be able to get a job with just the degree flat alone and no other skills from any other courses?
No, it's not impossible. So many of our training programs, when you see our ads go out, it does not require you to have experience. And we keep that in mind, because you're a new graduate coming out of university. What's key we're looking for is consistent quality work. So we'll look at your transcript, and of course we'll ask you technical questions. But the most important area are the traits that we spoke about. So in the interview, we'll probe about many of these traits that I would have spoken about, asking behavioral competency-based questions. But it's not impossible, and it is not required that you have additional. You need to have what is required to complete your course or your program.
Okay, thank you.
Just to add as well, if it is you find that you're not finding employment and your option is to stay home and relax, send your parents crazy, or sign up for another program, then certainly make the best use of the time and the skill that you have available to you, right? So if you do have the opportunity to further your studies, then continue on with that. Certainly, as Tahirah mentioned, look for opportunities where there are training programs, which mean that the employer is going to build some skill sets into you. We don't expect you to be perfect technical graduates, but certainly it is a competitive market. So Tahirah can tell you, when she's screening for our traineeship programs, we sometimes have 1,500, 1,600 candidates. And so it is something that we first, if you go to the funnel slide, Tahirah, for me, that first part of the funnel is that qualification screening. That's how you get down to the middle. You don't get into the middle unless you could pass the first part. So if it is the job requires a 3.0 GPA, a 3.3 GPA, then that is the minimum criteria that we'll be looking at to advance you into the funnel or through the funnel, right? So we'll start off with that, looking at some of what you've highlighted in your resume, looking at keywords that we would have asked for in the job. So the job may say, I need you to be able to be comfortable in this particular environment. The job may say that this is an engineer. You might be required at some point to work from heights, or you may be required to enter confined spaces. If you have any vertigo, if you have claustrophobia, then these are things, when we talk about fit and match, matching the job, these are things that will impact your ability to do this type of work. So you're really looking for jobs, or looking at the traits and the requirements of the job, and looking within yourself to see, okay, I know myself. What are the things I'm comfortable doing? What are the experiences I've had? What are the areas I'm genuinely interested in, and I would like to build these skill sets, and I can match now the requirements. So when you sit to write your resume, or when you sit to write your cover letter, you're explaining those things to me, the employer, who doesn't know you at all. So you're presenting yourself with the best possible outcome of being successful in this recruitment process. And so once you've met the top of the funnel, which is what we're asking for in terms of the qualifications and the basic fit measures, then you'll be advancing into the testing, which could take the form of the interviews, the assessment centers, a simulation, or whatever activity we choose to use to the recruitment process. And that's where you have the opportunity to present the skills you've either had from school or from some other group, or other experiences, life experiences. As part.
Thank you.
Ayoka, just to reiterate on, bring back up what you said about the cover letters and so forth at the beginning of your questions. The UTT SPE is actually going to have a cover letter and resume writing workshop later on in the semester, so you could definitely stay tuned for that. So, any more questions again? Let's proceed.
There's a question in the chat from Jabari, who asked, how does someone ready themselves mentally for the working environment if they think that they are not prepared for the transition from school to work? That's a very interesting question. Really, that transition is yours. Eh? There's nobody that can come and make you ready. So you have to start mentally conditioning yourself. There's a trick my dad used to do to us when we were small. If we went in those days, I don't want to date myself, but there used to be a club in the mall, in Gulf City Mall. I'll just say that. If we did go out on a Saturday evening, then at 5:30 a.m., bright and early in the morning, regardless of what time we came home, we had to get up. We had to get up and get ready for whatever the next day brought. So that it is that mental discipline and fortitude. You have to start readying yourself. If it is your job requires shift work, if it is this job is going to require you to be on site at 7 o'clock, then lounging around in your pajamas until 2 o'clock is not is not a behavior you will want to practice. You have to actually make yourself conditioned to the requirements of what the job entails. If it is a job, or if you're working on an industrial site where there's a zero tolerance for substance abuse or intoxicants of any kind, then you have to practice being out with your friends and being the designated driver, or being out with your friends and not having any alcohol, or being out with your friends and being responsible for yourself. Because if you are on call, if you are on shift, then you are required to always be ready, and being ready means that you cannot be inebriated in any way. Otherwise, you might find yourself looking down some work with the EAP or a disciplinary sanction, right? So these are things that when you say you're not mentally ready for work, you have to really start looking as a mature young person now, you're about to enter the workplace. What are the things that I need to practice, and how do I need to ready myself? So Tahirah would have given you several examples in the slides of opportunities to build the skill. So you can sit and do some self-assessments. There are quite a few career pages available online that would allow you to understand yourself, your personality, understand some of your tendencies, your traits. And then where you scored low or where you think based on the list you have work to do, then you look for the opportunity to build those skills. And that's what it is. One foot in front of the other every day, trying to do a bit more. Hope that answers the question, Jabari.
He says, thanks. Do you have any more questions? Come on, guys, don't feel shy. We are here with very friendly and diplomatic people. So let's get those questions out.
Oh, I just have one question about the cover letter writing session. Where do I find out more information about when that will be?
So once everything is confirmed, we will send you an email like we sent with this, and you'll have all the information on the date, time, and Zoom link and so forth. That answers your question.
Okay, well, because I actually found this link through someone in our group that I'm with. He actually sent me links, so I didn't get an email about this necessarily.
Okay, well, can you private message me your email address and I'll add you to the mailing list?
Okay, all right, no problem. Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot. All right, if we have no further questions, this presentation was very, very insightful and helpful. I'm sure a lot of us gain value by sitting and listening in. We have any closing remarks from our speakers?
No, thank you very much for having us. And of course, PLNL is very open and willing to support you in any other presentations that you have in the future.
And well, for me, I'm always happy when we participate in, career workshops. Not too long ago in very recent history, I myself remember my days of being a student and looking forward to entering the world of work. And sometimes you just don't know. There might be, you might not have somebody at home who can counsel and mentor you and give you guidance. So, these workshops are very valuable to access employers and understand the things that we're looking for. And I wish you all the best in your preparations to enter the world of work and in your job searches when you start. So thank you
very much.
From UTT.
All right, and like sentiments, Tahirah, I would now request that you unshare your screen. I have a certificate of appreciation to present to you. All right. So can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can.
All right, so Mr. Tahirah Kerr, thank you for your presentation. And please accept this token of appreciation from the UTT SPE Student Chapter, and we hope to have you back again and involved in our chapter, as this was very insightful and we gained a lot of value. Right, I will definitely email this to you. Maybe it's a regular mail because it's easier this way.
Right. Thank you for having me.
All righty, it was a pleasure. So again, everyone, thanks for coming. Ms. Clarendella and Ms. Charles, thank you for gracing us, and we hope to have you back again. And everyone, enjoy your evenings.
You too.
Same to you.
Do take care.